There we go. Great. Well, thank you all for showing up. We've already done a little bit of discussion. Let's see, everybody here's a familiar face. For those of you who don't know Victoria, Victoria was one of the first members of our meetup 18 years ago, 16, 17 years ago,
Oh,
when we were meeting at a Starbucks in Culver City. And then she'd been a Advent follower, excuse me, when we were still meeting in person at a little coffee shop.
Those were wonderful days.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was the name of that little shop? That coffee shop?
Unurban.
The
The
Unurban Cafe.
Unurban. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Unurban Cafe.
And we
That was
tried,
nice.
once they lifted things from the pandemic, we tried meeting there. We tried doing hybrid, but we were just having too many problems. And because the cafe was open and there was a lot of other people coming in, there was just so much noise coming from the other people that we didn't have the kind of privacy that we could get. So it just wasn't working well. And we were getting maybe two or three people showing up other than Spencer and I. So it's like, never mind. Um, so now I know some of you don't live around here. Um, how many of you I'm just wondering how many people would be up for, say, driving to the northwest corner of the valley or someplace, West Valley, for an in-person meeting at some point. And I
Depends on
might
what
post.
part of the northwest corner you're talking about.
Oh, well, let's see. How about let's say I can think of see, I've got a nice clubhouse here where we could meet.
I was going to
And
say
it could,
that's perfect. That place.
yeah, and
Yeah, but
that could easily
where
accommodate.
are you located?
Well, we're looking at DeSoto and Nordhoff,
Oh,
the major
That's
cross
good.
streets.
So
and what
So,
is
I mean, if you're coming by the
you're talking about
101, you get off
Northridge?
and come straight north on
it's
DeSoto.
kind of by
You
like
could,
Woodland Hills, but not quite high that far.
yeah, 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 we're looking at Nordhoff. DeSoto would be the common cross streets, depending upon where you want to, because that way you could get off either the 118 or the 101. Erica, you're too far away. I don't know, but imagine wouldn't be the kind of drive you'd want to make regularly, would you?
But I
And
have, did you remember Vicky? I don't know her last name. She used to come to astrology. She lives in Woodland Hills and
yeah,
she's offered that I can stay with her.
oh, there you
And I
go.
can bring her there because she's in Woodland. She has a home there.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd give you an
Yeah.
excuse. Yeah, Victoria, you're in South Carolina, so
Mhm.
I guess you won't be making the trip.
No, a little far.
Yeah. Cornelia, you're more like Santa Monica, aren't you?
No, I'm in Tarzana.
You're in Tarzana?
Oh, you're
Oh,
around the
perfect.
corner.
Hey, yeah, let's see. Is there anything, can you think
I'm
of any
in,
place in that area that might have a meeting room we could use? Like
Well,
a,
Let me sort this piece of.
Francisco used to have a group that met at, it's right on Sepulveda Boulevard, right off the freeway. I can't remember the name of that restaurant, but they have
Denny's.
well, they used to set up a meeting in the back.
Yeah, there's a Denny's restaurant there on Sepulveda and Burbank that
Yeah, maybe that was
NCGR
it.
used to meet at. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's easy to
pre-pandemic.
get there because it's right off the freeway.
Yeah. Well, I
At,
might check
at
that out. Maybe they're
Burbank.
still
At
see what
Burbank,
they.
yeah.
Yeah, I might check that out and see what their idea is because I went there once or twice for meetings.
did they
Yeah,
And it
stop
was like,
giving
that's right,
meetings
you
there?
did. That's right,
yeah,
you did.
yeah, their stuff is strictly Zoom now, I think, because again, the problem is it seems like when we do try to meet in person, the attendance is relatively low. So
We maybe can just do both.
City, that'd be
yeah,
Do both. What's wrong with your clubhouse? I like that place. That place is cool.
nothing wrong with the clubhouse. I like it too. I'm looking for something that's that's convenient for people as
Oh,
opposed to off the beaten path. That's all. Okay,
that's
all
not
right,
hard
let's get
for
going.
me.
All
That's
right.
not hard
Well,
for
I
me. I'm
don't
in
see
the
anybody else
valley.
coming, so
Yeah,
we're
there's
gonna get into our meeting. And I have good news for you. I think. Let's go. Are we ready? Here we go. Where are you? Up here you are. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me make sure I know which one I'm using here. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, yes, yes. You see? You see it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yay. Okay, here
Mhm.
we go. Reflections and divination, and let's see where we get to. So um, we're kind of gonna do a little rehash here. Um, does anybody have any announcements they want to make before I get too far? All right, so we've already talked about the idea of day and topic for May. So for May, we're going to meet on the first Sunday since the second Sunday is Mother's Day. And we're going to talk about famous moms
Mm,
and their offspring.
mm.
Some ideas we've got right now is FDR and his mother, Trump and his mother, Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher, Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli. So we're looking for famous moms with a famous sibling. Um, and then we're gonna let's see. So we're gonna do a quick review on the eclipses, the Mercury retrogrades, talk some more about the upcoming Mars opposition Saturn, and then there's something a question I have for you, which is how close is close enough, basically. And then if we don't run out of time, I've got some. We had last month. Some people had asked about other divination systems and how astrology can meld with them. So I've got some beginning information on astrology and tarot for those who do both or are interested in both.
Yay.
Right. So again, the best way to utilize any kind of astrological information is to look at what house is this falling in your chart. Um, whether you're looking at natal, progressed, solar arc. Okay, so here's the calendar of some upcoming events. Big news tomorrow, no major aspects. Take the day off. On the 15th, taxes are due, and we have 6 major aspects. Um, Moon, Mercury, and Mars will all go void of course. Moon enters something. Mercury goes into Aries on the 15th. Mars goes void of course for a little bit longer. It doesn't get into Leo until the 17th. So be extra alert. Watch out for the other guy, the one that causes the accidents. On the 16th, we have Mercury conjunct Neptune. 17th, Mars enters Leo. 18th, the Sun goes void of course and then enters Taurus on the 19th. On the 20th, Easter Sunday, for those of you who are of that ilk, or the end of Passover, if you prefer, there will be 11 exact major aspects, which starts with the moon square Chiron. 8 of them by the moon and 1 each by the Sun, Mercury, and Venus. So it's anybody's guess in terms of what that might be like. Because, I mean, those are, the connections between the transiting planets. So there's got to be something going on with just about everybody's chart, I would guess.
Yeah.
However, Jupiter doesn't make an aspect at all that day. On the 24th, Venus conjunct Saturn. Again, that would be for the third and final time. Venus stationed retrograde, stationed direct yesterday, if you ever missed it. On the 26th, we have the third and final Mars opposition Pluto. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And Mercury will leave their shadow. We have a new moon, 7 Taurus 47 on the 27th. Kind of trines my sun. On the 30th, Venus will enter Aries and Jupiter will leave his shadow. And then on the May 1st, Mars leaves his shadow. May 2nd, Venus, third and final conjunction with Neptune this go around. And then on the 4th, Pluto stations. Oh, I didn't. On the 4th, Pluto stations retrograde. On the 5th, there will be 2 major and 4 quincunx aspects. So this could be kind of exciting for some people, those who are sensitive to quincunxes. On the May 10th, Mercury enters Taurus. And the 11th, we have Mother's Day with a moon fixed crisis of action square Mars, or first quarter square Mars. So everybody be nice to your moms. You can talk to her even if she's not with us anymore.
Hmm.
Um,
In May also, Mars is going to conjunct Trump's Pluto in the 12th house.
oh yeah. Hmm.
Around the 15th, I think.
Yes. There are other fun things coming up. Yeah,
Yes.
he's got a whole lot of stuff happening between in the next
Right. I looked at a solar
couple of months.
again.
He's got quite a birthday coming up. It'll be interesting to see how, and considering, what I'm reading in the news about him and his comments, and it's like, okay. Um, yeah, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see is if he's here for his big military birthday parade or if it'll be some other kind of a parade for him.
He's
I didn't
June,
cross my
right?
fingers.
His birthday's June, right?
Yeah, June 14th.
Hmm.
Solar return is on the 13th. We'll talk about him at a, let's see, when's our June meetup? Um,
June would be the second would be the 8th, right? The second Sunday is the 8th, so we would meet before
okay.
his birthday.
Oh, goody. Yes, so we can do his solar return on his birth for meetup in June as we talk about him and Father's Day or something.
There you go.
Okay, moving right along here. Let's get into this meat and taters here. As I got to say. Okay, so the eclipse. There was the total lunar eclipse on the 13th. We had some cloudy skies around here, so it wasn't exactly as spectacular as it could have been.
Oh, right,
Um,
yeah. I met my
here's
neighbors,
oh, but that's
standing in the
nice.
middle of the street and meeting my neighbors.
Looking out at the moon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like right before midnight when it was total. And I remember where were we? We were at BJ's and I was out in the parking lot looking up at I was going out regular to see it, check on its progress. There was no blood moon to it, but well, it was like pretty much right overhead. But it was kind of spectacular as what you could see of it as it got darker. Okay. So here's the chart of what it looked like. Um, Obviously because it's in up here in the upper half. That's why we could actually see the eclipse. Um, Anybody have anything interesting happen around that time? Any good stories or anything to tell? No? Okay. Okay. Then we had the solar eclipse on the 29th. It was part of, so anybody, I don't think, excuse me, turning like 18, 36, 54, 72, 90 this year. Nobody's holding up their hand.
Wait,
My
what?
son is turning 71 today, not 72. My daughter turned 72 and my daughter's turned 72 in January and she just had a major heart operation.
Oh,
Mm,
wow.
mm. I have black squares on my screen with dark gray squares.
You got mine?
Yeah, me
Oh.
too. They've grown. There was one. Now it's gone.
Okay.
The one in the
There were
middle.
the
Yes,
two
that was,
bars, one on the left, one on the right, one on the bottom. That's not bad, but the one in the middle was there, but it's gone.
yeah, that was the notification to me that people had joined into the waiting room. I'm trying to see if I can slide some of this stuff out of the way, but it doesn't go. Okay. Um, excuse me. The reason I mentioned those ages is because that's when your prenatal eclipse repeats at those ages. Um,
This happened on
my
my north node in the 10th house, and the only thing I can say is that this week we finished up all of the corrections in the book.
Oh,
Hmm.
awesome.
the last
Great.
of the chapters. So
Terrific.
hopefully that's, I don't know how long it takes to publish it, but then it should be coming out.
Okay. That's your book on the new chart, right?
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Fantastic. Okie doke. Okay, so welcome people that just joined in. We're, as you can see, we're in the middle of it, but that's okay. Where am I? Here we go. Here we go. So here's the chart for the solar eclipse. And you can see that it was at 9 Aries down here in the, what will be the second house for LA. But because it's down here in the bottom of the chart, obviously we didn't get to see it because it's nighttime here.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody have any interesting stories to relate? Anything from then?
I
Um,
found it very powerful.
yeah. Well, what's interesting too is that if you look over here on the lower left of the, hopefully on the screen, you'll see that the only aspect the sun and moon made was that conjunction to each other.
Very, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Hmm.
It was on my Pluto. Not my Pluto, but trying my Pluto.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something I got carried away with, but anybody with planets or sensitive points in the 20 Pisces to 11 Aries range, that's which is like 41 degrees. Um, it's kind of like a lot of stuff's been happening. And if you or you know anyone who's got stuff there and they've seemed to be having a more challenging time recently, this is some of the stuff that's been going on that we've been going through. Um, Now, I started with January 28th when Venus entered its shadow, crossing the point at which it would be stationed direct yesterday.
Hmm.
Uh, February 1st, Venus was conjunct Neptune at 20, almost 28 Pisces, and it was also conjunct the true north node at 28 Pisces. And then on the 25th, Mercury conjunct Saturn at 20 Pisces. On the 28th, Mercury entered their shadow at 26 Pisces. March 1st, Mercury made their first conjunction with the true node, 27 Pisces, and Venus stationed retrograde at 10 Aries. That's why I picked 11 at the end of it. March 2nd, we have Mercury conjunct Neptune. On March 11th, Mercury was conjunct retrograde Venus. At March 12th, the Sun conjuncted Saturn. March 13th, we had our total lunar eclipse. The sun at 23 Pisces 53. Moon was at 23 Virgo 53. On March 14th, Mercury stationed retrograde at 9 Aries 35. March 17th, we had the sun conjunct the true node. Um, and that's so that you people who use the mean node know that we're talking something different than what they look at. Because it would, the mean node and true nodes are rarely the same. So there can be a day or two difference in when some of these events happen. On the 19th, the sun conjuncted Neptune. Then on the 22nd, retrograde Venus, inferior conjunction with the sun. And then on the 24th, Mercury made their inferior conjunction with the sun. And on the 27th of March, we had retrograde Venus conjunct Neptune. This is their second of three. The third one is still to come. And then on the 29th, Mercury conjunct Neptune, and we had the solar eclipse at 9 Aries. So that 9-10 Aries spot was really getting emphasized between the Venus station at 1050, Mercury stationing at 9:35, and then the solar eclipse at 9, new moon. And from my experience, at least with my prenatal astrology eclipse, that wherever that happens in your chart, it's like a sensitive point. So sometimes you may find things happen. People may come into your life where their sun is close to your prenatal eclipse point, for example, and you really may not understand why. You can't perhaps see why something seems to be going on here because there's nothing else there, and that may be the explanation you're missing. The missing point is where your prenatal solar eclipse hit. Because mine was at 6 Cancer, and there was a period where I was just meeting all of these people that had, their sons were in early Cancer.
Hmm.
And yeah, and it wasn't, yeah, they became significant or meaningful at least for a period of time.
Hmm.
So yeah, and what you're looking for is the solar eclipse that was prior to your birth. August, I think there'll be another pair of eclipses in September. So I think in August we'll talk more about eclipses and prenatal and the significance of them some more and how they reoccur and all that other fun stuff. Probably talk about that in August. Where was I? Okay. Then on March 30th, Neptune entered Aries. April 1st, April Fool's, retrograde Venus conjunct the true node. April 4th, retrograde Mercury conjunct true node. April 7th, retrograde Venus conjunct Saturn for the second time, and Mercury station direct. So Mercury, so for the retrogrades, Venus made 3 conjunctions with Saturn, but Mercury only made 1 because it stationed direct before it got met up with Saturn again. You can see where on the 7th, Venus conjuncted Saturn at 25 Pisces 15, while Mercury was stationing direct at 26 Pisces 50. Saturn doesn't move that fast, so and that's why even though Saturn was still moving direct and it took Mercury a little bit of time to get going, um, they never caught up.
I could say one thing about late March because that was the first time I met with this indivisible group. It's a protest against Trump group.
Oh, yeah.
It was the first time I went to one of their meetings since I joined them, so that was interesting.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what that eclipse is hitting my north node in the 10th.
Yeah, let's see. And I think the last one is which I can't see because that silly bar is oh, there we go. April 10th, Mercury conjunct the true node, and then April 12th, yesterday, Venus station direct at 24 Pisces 38. So you can see, and this stuff has already happened. A whole lot of stuff going on there from particularly late February, all the way through March into early April. So yeah. Went deeper. There we go. So there's a few more dates to look at. The 16th, which is Wednesday, Mercury enters Aries. Then on the 21st, Saturn will conjunct the true node. On the 23rd, Venus will conjunct the true node for the third and final time. And then on the 24th, it will make its third and final conjunction with Saturn. Then on the 26th, Mercury leaves their shadow. And we have the third Mars opposition Pluto, 3 Leo, 3 Aquarius. And we're going to go talk more about that. And we've got the chart for that. On the 30th, Venus will enter Aries and Jupiter leaves their shadow. Then on May 2nd, Venus conjuncts Neptune for the third and final time. Mars will leave their shadow. So now, as of yesterday, all the planets are in direct motion, but um, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn technically are all in their shadows. Now, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter are in making their third pass through their shadow. So that's the residual of the retrograde they just had. Saturn is in his shadow for his new retrograde that's coming up. And so, yeah, there we go. All planets are direct, but yeah, we still have, at this point, Venus and Saturn are still in their shadows. Silly me clicking. Okay. um, Then on May 24th, Saturn finally enters Aries in hot pursuit of Neptune. We're going to talk a little more about that. July 5th, that was the 4th. Or is that a typo? I think that's a typo. I think it's the 4th of July. Neptune stations retrograde. Let me quickly check. Yeah, it's on the 4th. Happy birthday, America. Neptune's going to station retrograde. And then on July 12th, Saturn stations retrograde.
Hmm.
Okay. Obviously, there's a whole lot of other stuff happening in between, but these are the big dates, particularly as they deal with that 20 Pisces to 11 Aries space. Um, any comments, questions about any of this? Empty space for me. So, okay, here we go. So here's the chart for the Mars Pluto opposition, their third and final for this cycle. Um, there was so how
Is that
considering
making a square to the sun in the seventh house?
let's see yeah, yeah, you got T squared there to the sun. And actually out of sign, but you could probably stretch it to the moon as well because it's right before the 411 hits.
Right.
Yeah, it's the day before the new moon. So yeah, so that and so we have the new moon the following day, which is making that T square, completing the T square with the Mars and Pluto. So yes, we have a T square. Anybody have any points, say early degrees of Scorpio to fill in the Grand Cross, the fixed grand? What would be that? Would be a fixed grand.
No, but my moon is at 3 Leo.
Your moon's at 3 Leo. Okay. Well, there you go. There you got Mars on your sun.
I've got Mars 3 degrees Scorpio and Saturn 7 degrees Scorpio.
Well, so okay, so they're filling in that T-square, making a grand cross, a fixed grand cross. That could mean something for you. Could be significant.
I have Pluto conjunct my Pluto. I have Pluto is conjunct my what is on the other side of it? I have space here I can't see, but anyway, my moon is there at 3 degrees.
Yeah, Pluto's sitting on Spencer's moon.
Yeah.
Um, so and oh well, Mars is on my Saturn. I guess I mentioned that. So that puts me in play. Huh. And and the moon right there is going to be opposing my Jupiter Venus midpoints, which means it's on both of them. So okay. Yeah, it's
What do people think? I look at this as a trigger. I mean, anyone else look at this as a trigger that It's going to set off a lot of things. It may have lost 2 or 3 days, but a phone call, a car accident, something might happen to be. I look at that as a trigger. I expect a lot of activity. I don't know how other
Mhm.
people look at that, but I have a definite concept that when Mars enters in that tight and meaningful opposition with my moon, maybe it's just my moon, but it's
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, if Pluto's sitting on it, then you have your Mars opposing it. Plus, we're going to have the that new moon squaring it.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so there's plenty going on. It's interesting though, if you just by looking at the chart, you see we still have this real cluster in Pisces and Aries. Things not ready to move out of there yet.
Hmm.
Were there any
Okay.
significant events when Mars and Pluto, this is the third go around for Mars and Pluto opposition,
Yeah.
so the
Hmm.
dates, I don't know if anything significant happened on those two previous dates that this is resolving or ending.
Oh, let me look at something here. Let me go back and find something. Here we go. I'm going to do a quick key. November 3rd, 24 and January 2nd of 25. So November 3rd was right before the election. And then July 2nd, of course, the election's over. We know the results. It's, just a few days before the anniversary of January 6th. So, yeah, so it's kind of like,
Connected to the election.
yes, yes, I think it all connects to the election, the resurgence, and everything that's going on. And the 80 and 50-year cycles that Gail Minogue talks about for the United States. The 80-year cycle is kind of an industrial cycle. The 50-year cycle is more of a social um, kind of cycle. What's going on socially, and there's another word she used, and that escapes my brain right now. So yeah. Um, I think all of this, I think, along with the Saturn Neptune conjunction that's coming up, things that are playing out right now they're all part of the current election, that 24 election, and what's coming for 26 and 28. Um, yes, because if you look here, you'll see that we have, well, we don't have it. We have a sextile from Pluto over here to like to Neptune, and from Neptune, yeah, and then there's Uranus. They're getting in position for their big. Um, I've seen it. I did look trying to figure out what it was called, but the one term that I came across was a minor grand trine. We've got a chart to that coming up too. So let me go to the next. I don't remember my next slide, but I think yes, here we go. So here it is. How close is close enough? So we talk about orbs a lot. And we talk about applying and separating, and the exact point is when the two are it's exact. They're whether they're exactly 90 degrees or 60 degrees or 120 degrees or 0 degrees or 180, whatever aspect we're looking at. But what happens when they don't quite make exact, when they get close, but then one or both of them go retrograde or something, and so then they separate again before they actual perfection of the exact aspect. Now, the term that is used in horary is reformation, for when an aspect doesn't perfect. That's, for example, Saturn and Neptune. Okay. They will be conjunct on February 20th, 26th, for one time and one time only. It's kind of like they will get very close this summer, around the time of July 7th or July 4th, when Neptune stations retrograde in July 12th or 13th. What day it is? 14th, when Saturn stations retrograde. They're very close, but not exact. Okay. Neptune goes to 2 Aries. Saturn only goes to 1. But it gets to Neptune stays in early 2 Aries, and Saturn gets to very late 1 Aries. So that's why I'm posing the question, how close is close enough? In astrology, the term perfection is used to describe 2 planets coming together by a degree-based aspect. When the 2 planets are exact, the aspect is said to perfect, and whatever the coming together of the 2 planets symbolizes, it will most likely occur or appear in reality when the perfection takes place. And that's a quote from Adam Ellenbass from his Nightlight Astrology. Now, Saturn and Neptune will be exactly conjunct only one time, February 20th, 8:53 a.m. at 0 Aries, 45 minutes, 10 seconds of arc. However, on July 16th of this year, Saturn will be at 1 Aries 55 and 20. We'll get within 12 minutes and 52 seconds of arc of Neptune, which is retrograde at 2 Aries 8 minutes 12 seconds. That's less than 1/4 of a degree of arc, which is about slightly less than half the width of the sun or a full moon. So is this close enough that we might expect something to happen, or is it just that something is going to happen, but it's just, the big event is still not going to happen until they're exact in February? That's my question.
That's really interesting to me. So has anybody felt like they've been watching that? Have you watched it, Jim, and you feel like it works with other?
Well, my personal thought is that until they're exact, they're not exact.
Okay.
That even 12 minutes, even less than 1/4 of a degree, even 12 minutes of arc isn't going to be good enough for something to happen.
Yeah, but Jim, you've also got to take in consideration our personalities, and you're a Virgo. So
Yes.
that might be influencing the way you're looking at this, right?
It
I know
certainly
that-
does. My chart totally influences how I look at things.
Yeah.
Now,
So the perfection of a Virgo might mean that you're looking for perfection. I'm always suggesting, I don't know. I
Well-
always, when it comes to astrology, I always,
Yeah, that's, I mean, that is true. I mean, he does look at everything like in calculations.
you're looking at it as an astrologer and I'm looking at it as a psychologist.
okay, but here is my point in this case, because within this cycle, they will be exactly conjunct. Okay, they will be exactly conjunct. So that's when I would expect the major event, not at some point prior to that. Now, if the conjunction doesn't happen, let's say it's because, let's say it's Saturn and Mars. Let's use Saturn and Mars as an example. We're expecting them to be conjunct. We see that Saturn is direct and Mars is retrograde, and we're expecting Saturn. We expect them to become conjunct, but Mars stations direct and goes away from Saturn before it's exact.
So what do you think is going to happen when they aren't directly conjuncting?
Well, that's another question, because their exact conjunction is at 0 Aries, the 0 Aries point, that point. I think
That's my Mars, 0 Aries.
Because in personalities,
mhm.
you can have minor eruptions before the big eruption.
Yes, exactly. So it's just like, is this going to be like, you're thinking in terms of geophysics, is it like a volcano where you have
Mhm,
little
mhm,
hints and then the big blow up? Or like an
mhm.
earthquake where you may get a little
Couple of,
trembler and then another little trembler, and then all of a sudden you get a big one. Um, I I kind of think of them something like this more in that perspective,
mhm,
that
I see
it's
that.
there's something happening, there's something building, but then something happens, it's going to either get delayed for some reason. Maybe they revive him, give him CPR or something, and he doesn't. They bring him back from the brink.
I think
No reference we can have.
the process of planets like Neptune and Saturn, which is slow. I
Hmm.
think that the dance they're doing over the next year is this slow process of watching our present government dissolve
Yes,
and all the confusion around it. First it's one thing, then it's another. Put up the tariff, they take the tariff away. You fire people, you hire them back. I mean, this
yeah,
constant confusion is feeling like the whole government is disintegrating. And what is going to
because
take its place? And I think by the time when it reaches that place of actual contact, we should know which direction we're going in. I mean, it'll be the summary, right? This summation of all the process that's been going on all year.
Yeah, I don't think, if I may, Saturn and Aries is not a difficult conjunction. It's not a conflicting conjunction. I think Saturn and Aries go well together. I think, like you said, I think it'd be more of a culmination of something versus transformation. I think the transformation may be happening now, but I don't think
Mm,
Saturn and Aries. It may be a beginning of something, but not a complete
right,
destruction transformation.
Oh,
right.
Ryan's back.
Yeah,
There's Ryan. We thought we lost you.
I did, but
Oh,
welcome back.
thank you.
So to add something here, when Saturn goes retrograde, it will go back to 25 Pisces 10. So it's going to transit back over all these aspects that we've already, most of these that we've had, the conjunctions and the such.
Hmm.
Neptune, however, only goes back to 29 and goes back to 29, 22, but it goes back just to 29 area, Pisces. So, all of this 29 Pisces stuff that's been building up, that Aries, that Neptune's been working on for ever, it seems like.
Right.
All of that stuff is going to really start to congeal. Um, then, Neptune moves, the Saturn goes direct for Neptune and gives Saturn a chance to try to catch up. And that's why they're actually conjunct and at zero Aries.
Well,
Um,
I'm watching somebody who has a 29-degree Pisces ascendant,
hmm,
and he's going to have both of them dancing over it. And I already see the process that's happening. He's disintegrating.
mm,
yeah. Yeah, things are definitely disintegrating. I mean, look at what's going on with the government. I mean, it's everything that we've accepted and figured in. This is the way it is. It's great. I mean, we start with Roe v. Wade, uh, all these things that are disintegrating, being overturned, being changed. And if those are little things, if those are some of the little things that are going to be happening, what's the big thing? And will the big thing be that um, that I think the Saturn Neptune conjunction in zero Aries is symbolic of something big happening from the standpoint of,
Maybe
well,
it'll be clearer. Maybe it'll be clearer,
I'd
but
like to
where this
see,
yeah,
process is leading to.
I'd like
yeah,
to
because
see that.
keep in mind that 26 is a midterm election year, and we hit January, and all the congressmen are trying to get reelected again,
Right.
and they're going to have to be explaining to their people why they why they got fired and why they got, why they got laid off and why they lost so many benefits, why their benefits got reduced. So they've got a lot of explaining to do. Or,
And the resistance is coming with the Mars opposite Pluto,
yeah, therein it lies the resistance.
but it hasn't gotten violent yet, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
Right.
um, yeah, the question is,
Remember during the 60s, the STS?
oh yeah,
Could I speak to this series of Saturn and Mars and
you may.
Mars or Aries? Let's look at it that way. Uh, I have a different point of view. I think one aspect of Saturn and Aries is that it's, to me, focused anger, like in the army or in a soldier. The way that is expressed is if, let's say, one part is let's give Saturn the kind of view that structure, and then you have that. So like uh, we could have something like in the artillery, Saturn points it and the other pushes it. I have a concept there that there can be a very terrible focus through this combination of energy that's directed, and it can be directed in a very focused way because of the way that Saturn will seek structure, and that structure will direct the energy that is coming to it. What do you think of that?
And it isn't interesting that so many news people refer to the wrecking ball that Trump is using against our government.
Mhm.
I guess I'm curious when I'm looking at Aries as being leadership and leadership within the government, not necessarily I know Saturn is government, but for me, being in the sign of Aries makes it feel like it's the dissolving of the leadership of the government versus just
I don't think
government
that's
in
a
general.
good
I feel like
point.
it's a little more leadership focused, this aspect, versus generally in the government.
Well, there's the dissolution of the dream, some dreams that people have had, or illusions of what the federal government is and can do, uh,
But
or
at
should do.
but at the same time, it's always been crappy, you know, and people might just be waking up to it.
Well, they're not reforming it, they're
Yeah,
destroying it. That's a little different.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
I'm okay. First of all, I don't like Trump at all, so I'm not giving him any credit. But I just mean it's always been bad when you talk about regularly to people on a regular basis about the government. I think they have like a fairy tale imagination about trusting them. And I don't think anybody should trust the government like ever because they're not really helpful, you know? And I'm an Aries, sorry. So I voice my opinion, but like I
Plain
that's
Lucy, come
that's
on,
one
Melissa.
thing that I think is like people don't realize that you shouldn't trust the government. I mean, and people do. I mean, people do. They really think that they're there to protect them.
Right.
The relationship
That's
you have with the government is yeah, it can vary, especially what aspect of the government you're working with.
yes. Part of the Okay, now I'm coming from my Virgo chart and my 42 years in the government. I have to count my military. What the heck? Um, I think some of the problems could be solved by simply putting term limits on representatives and senators.
Exactly.
Give them one term, period. Maybe give the senators, if you want to give the
No,
senators,
I would say that they can't be there more than one generation because they
uh,
get, so that's like,
it's, yeah, but the problem, see, yeah, that's one issue. But my problem is that as soon as they get elected, they're running for reelection and they're finding money from special interest groups. And
To get
that's
reelected. Mhm.
the that becomes then the problem. They become representatives of that, their donors, not of their people. Okay, so if they only get elected, if they can only be elected one term, let's say 6 years for representatives and 12 for the senators. Now maybe you can't run consecutively, but you could you could go again maybe 6 years later or something. But you're not it's not a lifetime job like it had become for so many, particularly in the Deep South, and even most of, if you look around, most representatives and most senators, they get reelected pretty much routinely.
But there's a political
Sen
side of the government and there's a civil servant side of it, and the civil
yes,
servant side is what's being destroyed.
yes, and the problem now the problem that the civil servants have, I mean, I think there's two things going on there. One, you have the political appointees that, and it's true regardless of who the administration is.
Mhm.
The cabinet members are all political appointees. Uh, the heads of the agencies are typically political appointees. Some others are there. You have a number of political appointees who now owe their loyalty to the administration, and they don't really understand how the civil service operates, how that entity that they're in charge of, they don't really understand how it operates. Now,
Correct. Yeah.
um, is the government too large? In many ways, it becomes too large because as soon as somebody gets a piece of the pie, they want more. Everything they do from if you're in charge, for everything that you do from that point is to try to make it bigger, to get more. That's the natural tendency of a supervisor, to supervise, to have more. So, and therein lies, I think, part of the problem, because you don't necessarily need more. The government is not efficient. I will give you that. Um, and unfortunately, a lot of people that work for the government, it's a government job. I don't care. I come in and I put in my 8 hours and I go home and I draw my paycheck until I can retire. And then I retire. Thank you. I'm fine. Give me my civil service, or it used to be at least civil service, and I'll draw it for 5 or 8 years and then I'll drop dead. That's if you're not ready for retirement. Oh, I'm a cynic. Shame on me.
Well, there's a
Um,
different incentive system in the government than from private
yes.
business, and you can't, it motivates people in a different way, and the output is different because of that.
Mhm.
But that's the nature of government.
Yeah. It can be very hard to measure what somebody's doing from an output standpoint, um, because of the nature of what they're expected to do. I mean, we can all complain when we go to DMV and have to wait in long lines to see somebody, or when we file our taxes. I mean, and if we have to, heaven forbid, get audited by IRS or something, or or if we're trying to apply for some type of a benefit of some sort, apply for federal grants. I mean, there's a lot of, there is a lot of inefficiency, and yes, there's a lot of waste, and there's a lot of fraud. I mean, anytime you've got a program that's sending out disability benefits or death benefits to millions of people, I guarantee you there will be some fraud in there. Not on a massive scale that, like Musk might claim, or that they claim that they found. Um, Yeah, were there, did they find thousands of people on the Social Security rolls that are 100 years or older? Yeah. Well, let's see now. Who misinput the year of birth? Are they in receipt of benefits? Well, no, they never received benefits, but they're still there. We just never killed them off. But nobody bothered to tell us they died because they weren't drawing benefits. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason for them being there. It's not that they were all receiving massive amounts of benefits. Some were, and yes, it's fraudulent. I mean, yeah, in my time in the government, I encountered cases where, the child would keep accepting mom's check or dad's check simply because it was kept coming. And they liked the check. It was nice. They thought they could have it. It's like, no, that was for your dad. That was for your mom. That's not for you. Oh, gee. And, the government is often reluctant to go after those people to try to recoup the money, because because then the government looks bad. And in many of these cases, the person may be old, elderly, or disabled in their own right. So, yeah,
Yes.
but yes, it happens. So, yes, it's inefficient. It's bloated. But problem is, Congress doesn't understand how it works, nor do the political appointees that are responsible for running it. They don't understand the process. if you want to fix the process, you have to understand the process. That's why I got out of management.
Oh,
I'm in,
speaking of that, can I introduce a book to you?
Oh, another book.
It's called The New Golden Age, A Revolution Against Political Corruption and Economic Chaos. And it was written by Ravi Batra, Batra, who's an economist and studies these cycles. And what we're going into is a new age of warriors, which I think fits the Aries, like somebody said about leadership.
You said warriors, right?
Warriors,
I
yes.
heard warriors.
Oh,
Warriors.
warriors, yeah.
Well,
We
it's
are worried.
both.
Someone read
We're
it.
very
As,
worried.
as long as
It's-
we're
it's-
doing books, my psychologist, an alumni friend, has been recommending The Science of Evil by what's her name? I forgot it. By Bowen Cohen. Let me find her first name. And she's a Jungian. And yeah, let me find the first name here.
Mhm.
The Science of Evil, and he keeps telling me I should try it. Simon Baron Cohen, Cohen.
Okay.
I had
Yeah.
a question.
Yes.
When somebody dies, doesn't it get recorded somewhere, their social security number or anything when they fill out paperwork?
Well, they get it if if the death is reported, then a death certificate is prepared. However, that's one government computer system which doesn't connect to the Social Security system or the VA system or other benefit system. Now, on a state level, it may work fine. As far as state benefits, it may, maybe there's a connection where it will, trigger a stop check for any kind of a state benefit they're receiving, but I question whether that happens.
Interesting.
Yeah, so no, there isn't. They don't connect.
That's kind of like
The
a brainer.
If
I know.
if I may interject, when you die, let's say you die in California, the county that you die in takes you off the voter registration rolls and things like that. That much I know for sure because of when my parents died, that's what happened.
I think one of
course,
the
now.
big transformations that we probably will see in our lifetime is going to be in the currency, not so much social programs, because we're seeing digital assets like Bitcoin become more and more prominent and people start to understand how governments basically are printing money.
Mhm.
And you take somebody in Argentina or wherever, Chile, and they have their currency. Well, the government starts printing more currency, and then their dollars that they have is not worth anything. So what they can do is they can go and buy Bitcoin, which is an international currency, and now they actually have value. They can hold the value of whatever they have in Bitcoin. So, and even Trump has basically said, and the Trumps and Elon and all these are buying Bitcoin. So I think the huge transformation is going to be in currency, because it's through currency manipulation that governments, keep control not only of other countries but of us, and through the printing of money. And this is causing all these the chaos is through this currency manipulation.
Yeah, that's really
Here.
true.
Okay. I have to interject, if I may, and this is in part is due to my ignorance because I'm not fully understanding Bitcoin yet, since you can't seem to go to I can't go down to Mercedes and give them 12 Bitcoin for a car.
Right. True.
I mean, and so yes, you can have wealth, and I mean, granted, you could use it as a means of savings, but unfortunately, Bitcoin is very volatile. But you can't buy anything with it.
But more and more people are buying it now because I work in the field of,
Okay.
people, with,
Yes.
a lot of my, so
It's
anyway, so they're all getting used to it very slowly. I would say I've heard about this change in currency over like the last 20 years actually. And it's slow, but it is going. I could say in the last 5 years, it's really almost every single famous person I know has Bitcoin now. And even though, like, let's say all the accountant types or tax types, they don't like it at all, but it is still going that direction. I don't think they could really stop it.
The
Yeah, it's
system really
tough.
needs to be perfected. There are a lot of problems with it, and there's a lot of people starting their own digital currency, and there's corruption. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
it is not at a place right now where it could really go off, but I think it could go into that place. I was very hopeful about it, but it has a lot of flaws right now that are not making it to be the utopia that you think it might be. But if those were fixed, it could be.
Well,
Well,
Yeah.
it's not
So
just
what?
that that's a utopia. It's just that the current system creates so much problems and war.
Mhm.
Because the people don't want war. The governments want war. The leaders want war. We don't want war. Nobody wants war. Russians don't want war. Ukrainians don't want war. We want war. The governments want war. They can't go to war if they don't have money. So they print money.
Mhm.
Even Jefferson said, dead is blood. So the current system is a mass problem. When people start to become more aware of how much problems it creates. But Bitcoin, I didn't say it's here today. It's a digital currency. I mean, we have digital currency now. We pay with a credit card. It's a digital currency. Problem is, it has to go through a bank, and then the government
Yes.
basically is manipulating it all the time. So if I can just pay you directly wherever you are in the world without going through a bank, because it's the banks. If you want to have who
Yeah,
where
maybe we'll agree to
problems.
disagree, but there's a
well,
lot of what you're
Well,
well,
saying that
no,
I am
here's
completely
but
against.
people,
I don't
there's
agree with it all.
but the talk
uh,
of what's happening now too, though, Erica, is that they think like the government might make their own type of Bitcoin. It's
They
not
already
necessarily.
are.
here's
Russia already has it. Venezuela has it,
So
because they can't get accepted with others.
Can
Yeah.
I suggest that
We
we
get
get
back.
back to kind of
Yeah, let's get back
astrology
to
topics?
astrology.
Because we could go on and try to solve
there.
these problems. It's
Rita,
very
could
good
I
thoughts.
ask you the name of that book again?
Me? My book?
Yeah.
Or the other book? Oh, it's The Science of Evil by Simon Baron Cohen, Cohen.
Okay.
And it was
Uh,
Thank you.
recommended by my Pacifica alumni friend who has a PhD in psychology.
oh, Pacifica.
Okay.
I love this.
Yeah, Pacifica. I'm a graduate of Pacifica.
my turn. Um,
Your turn. Your turn,
okay.
Kim.
So again, briefly on the Bitcoin thing, it's like there's actually more than one. If there were only one Bitcoin and not different ones, then you would have a uniform. In order for it to work, first off, you have to go off the dollar standard, okay, which is the standard currency for most trades within the world.
Hmm.
And you have to, all the countries that have to agree that, okay, we're going to use Bitcoin. It's going to be this Bitcoin as the standard of trade, as a standard of currency across the world. Otherwise, having Bitcoin is no different than what we've already got now with each country printing their own money. Because if each country has their own Bitcoin, then it's like, well, how much is your Bitcoin worth compared to my Bitcoin? So at some point will we get there? Probably. But I think it's a long way off. Um, Bitcoin is still evolving. So, but something I noticed, if you look at the chart, the Saturn conjunct Neptune chart, are you seeing that?
Yes.
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 Okay. Look, so we have Pluto here at 4 Aquarius, and here's Mars at 22 Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when the Saturn Neptune conjunction perfects on February 20th, Mars will have completed its orbit and Pluto and started a new Pluto cycle. So we're talking about on the 26th, we have their third and final opposition. January 27th of 26, Mars will conjunct Pluto at 3 Aquarius 48, I believe it is, if my memory is serving me correctly, which is basically where their opposition is. And then on February 20th, it's moved over here. And we see now we have this conjunction. So there's that extra part to the Saturn-Neptune puzzle, if you will, is the fact that we're completing a Mars-Pluto cycle and starting a new one at the point of perfection. And as long as, you know, they're
Read that last
close,
part
but
again, where's ending
yes.
what, starting, just read the last sentence,
Okay. So between now,
Mhm.
well, between April 26th, here we have the third Mars, yeah, 348, Mars Pluto opposition, the third and final. Okay. Then we go forward, and here's the Saturn Neptune conjunction. We see where Mars is now gone all the way around from
Mm.
Leo back to Aquarius. It's conjuncted Pluto and moved on.
Mhm.
And let's see, I'm going to stop this share momentarily and go to a different one. Okay, do you see what I see?
No,
How do you know?
I
Do
see
you
nothing. Okay, I see nothing.
you're not seeing anything?
No.
Anybody
Anybody
seeing
else?
anything?
No, it's all black.
No,
All black. Okay, let's back off and let's try that again and see what's going on here. Don't do this to me. Okay, here we go. Still
No.
black?
Oh no, it's black.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Still
Are
black.
you seeing it? Okay, you see this?
No.
I don't
No,
see
nothing.
anything.
Oh,
Oh,
there
there
it
it is.
is. There it is. Yeah.
Got it now?
Matrix search. Yes.
Matrix search. Okay. This line right here is where we are right. Is what's coming up. The third Mars Pluto opposition, 426. Here's their first conjunction. When once they move on, we get a trine, a square, a sextile, and then we get the conjunction. January 27th of 2026, 2:56 p.m. Pacific time. Mars, they're conjuncted at 3 Aquarius 34. Sorry, I was off on that. That marks the end of the current Mars Pluto cycle and the beginning of the new cycle, which is where we are when we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries. So there's lessons learned from the 3 Mars Pluto oppositions. Those are like full moons. It's like if we go back to February 13th of 24, the first line on this chart, that's when they were conjunct at 0 Aquarius 46. That was the beginning of the current Mars Pluto cycle. So we had the sextile, the square, the trine, and then we got these 3 conjunctions because Mars went retrograde. So we have November 3rd, January 2nd, April 26th. Mars is now direct. We mix a trine. This is the closing trine, the closing square, closing sextile, and then it all resolved. January 27th, we start a new cycle.
It's already a
October
new
3rd.
cycle.
Then October 3rd to 26 is when Mars and Pluto are in opposition again. So that's like the month before our 26 midterm elections. But yeah, each cycle builds on the previous cycles. So whatever these oppositions are about, which is the full moon, the harvest, the culmination, so to speak. And from here, it's kind of like, okay, let's put everything together now and get things finished. Oops, let me quick stop this. So that's kind of where we end up. Then when we come back to here. Seeing the Saturn conjunct Neptune chart now.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
I'm so happy it's working. Makes me excited. Okay. But I say, so now we all of this Saturn Neptune stuff is within, it's all part of, it's all tied into the Mars Pluto cycles. And I think with, you know, we'll have ideas of what's going on. We have our thoughts, but we won't know for sure, obviously, until around about the end of February when we have the actual perfection of that conjunction in terms of how it's all playing out. Now, we may have greater clarity when we have the Mars Pluto conjunction on January 27th, because these cycles, I think, are, to me, the cycles are tied together.
The other thing I might mention is that in this chart, you can see that the North Node is at 8 Pisces.
Yes.
So that means the United States chart is having a nodal return.
Oh, well, that's nice. Maybe. Let's see, 26. Yeah, we'd be 250 years old. Let's see, 18 into 250, how many times?
Well, doesn't Cornelia have a different dates for some of this United States?
Yes. Now, is that from the Sibley chart or your chart, Cornelia?
What?
The 8 Pisces, that's your chart?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Which was 1783, which is 1783, 243 years divided by 18, 3 times 13, 14. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be around the time of our, from that, their 13th, 14th nodal return, I guess.
Mhm.
Going
Sounds
on
about
with your theme of Pluto and Mars,
right.
with the Saturn Neptune conjunction, could you maybe see it that since Mars and Pluto are more of an action-oriented um, aspect, that action could lead to a
Yes.
consequence that is the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So that is the event actually, and the consequence, which is the fallout basically, is that 0 degrees in leadership
Yeah.
Aries.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, because Mars is a planet of action, uh, and I remember decades ago when I was first learning astrology, one of the comments that was made was that Mars aspects will often manifest before they're exact. Others happen with exact or after, but Mars can often happen prior to the point of exactness. So Mars is impulsive.
I was gonna say,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's with Mars.
Mars is impulsive, but in Saturn, to me, I see a lot of stability. I mean, Saturn and Neptune, Pluto. These are generational planets. So
hmm
these are long-term things. You have Aries in Aries. Aries is actually Aries is also a new beginning, pioneer. So you have a very new. To me, I see stability. I mean, I see a lot of stability. Yeah, you have a lot of play in Pisces, maybe ending some cycles, but your generational planets, particularly Saturn, is very stable. I see a lot of stability. I see maybe some chaos. Obviously, what's going on right now, but I see good. I see stability.
Saturn
um,
in Aries is in its downfall, so it's not, I mean, Saturn is stable, but it's not in a stable position.
yeah, it's not in a,
I don't
it's not in
have
a,
the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Why do
Sweet.
you say that? Why do you say it's not in a stable position?
Because Saturn is in its fall in Aries.
It's in its fall, you said?
Yeah, it's
yes, it's in the
weakened
fall.
because it's in Aries. Aries is the sign that creates weakness in Saturn as a planet. So
Mhm.
it's like Venus and Virgo.
Yeah. Uh, it's
I
it's
have a question about Mars because
Mhm.
Mars is the ruler of that conjunction since it
Yeah.
Mhm.
rules Aries and it's square to Uranus and Taurus,
Mhm.
which it will take place right after this.
Nothing like
Mhm.
a Mars square Uranus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know
Well,
Aries' natural sign is Mars, but I think Aries works well with Saturn. I mean, as does Capricorn, of course. But I don't, not to disagree with you, but I don't see it as weakening. I think it strengthens. I think it strengthens
the
each other. But
all right. So you're not familiar with Ptolemy's table of, then are you?
I'm sorry.
You are not familiar with Ptolemy's table of essential dignities of the planets?
I mean, just generals. I don't know. No, not specific.
Yeah, because Saturn's exalted in Libra and in its fall in Aries, which means it's stronger in, it's like Mars is strongest in Aries and weaker in Libra. Saturn is just the opposite. It's stronger in Libra and weaker in Aries. Now, it doesn't mean it's ineffective by any way, shape, or form. It's just where it's at. Um, and let's see.
Yeah, like
It's not in its
So you're
good
saying
dignity. There's
it would.
dignity to a planet that it does the right thing when
Mhm.
it's in its sign
So you're
of
saying it would
its.
weaken the stability. It would be unstable in a
Yeah,
sense.
it would be more susceptible to Neptune's influence because Neptune, while not stronger in Aries, it's not weaker either. It's just is.
I
So it's
What
kind of
about,
like
I
what
feel
about,
well, I don't know in like like a group sort of collective way to interpret that, but I know like for me when I experience because I'm very Aries and I experience Saturn like it's frustrating, you know? And because you have to move slower and Aries wants to move fast. So I feel like when I experience that with Saturn, it actually makes you step make your steps like more thought out.
Mhm.
Tries to.
Yeah.
Jim, do you want to speak to Chiron sitting exactly on the ascendant?
Uh, I can. I don't know that Chiron has much to do with any of this, but yeah, I'm not a Chiron
Jim's not a Chiron
strong.
person.
I'm not a strong. I think Chiron tends to be misinterpreted. I
Right,
from a
okay.
yeah from a on a personal level, I think it would be it's important. It can affect a person's perception of themselves. Um, Chiron is, to my way of thinking, more about issues of abandonment, self-sacrifice. It's about the desire to learn and to overcome um, the the challenges one faces from their
Mm-hmm.
environment or their beginning.
Right,
Um, Wounded healer, that's just a generalization of a small part of Chiron.
right.
Because if you think about Chiron, okay, so he was under his birth circumstances, okay. Saturn, his father, was having a fling with a wood nymph or something of sort, was caught by his wife, pulled out at the point of ejaculation, turned into a horse, pulled out, and the timing of his that event where he turned himself into a horse so he could flee from the event and his wife resulted in Chiron being born, appearing to be a centaur. He is not a centaur. Centaurs are very specific creatures that come from a different place with different lineage. He just happens to look like one. So he's abandoned not only by his father, but by his mother. God, he's ugly. So here you have this, young colt, if you would, appears to be something that he's not, abandoned by both parents. Fortunately for him, the sun god Apollo comes along, takes him under his wing, fosters him, teaches him. Chiron is an excellent student, avid learner. And then he goes out and starts to share that knowledge. He shares his knowledge of everything, of botany, of medicine, of combat skills, of athletic skills with others, such as Hercules and the like. So he's sharing it with his knowledge with everything. Then, while hanging out with centaurs who are where he hangs because that's what he looks like, and he doesn't look different. He's not rejected by them because he looks like one of them. And I think we've all seen cases of, we all familiar with cases of people who look different being rejected or not fitting in. And so for Chiron, he didn't fit in most of his life, except when he was with people that looked like him, which were centaurs, but he wasn't really a centaur. And of course, Hercules is there, and the centaurs like to drink and have games and the like. And so accidentally, Hercules shoots an arrow with the poison tip on it. It strikes Chiron in the leg, flank, hoof, somewhere. And because it's poisoned, he is in great pain. But because he's the son of Saturn, he can't die. Next phase, he sees Prometheus suffering on the rock because he stole fire from the gods and gave it to mankind. And he's having his eyes and liver, whichever, pecked out every day, and they grow back every night, and the birds come back and peck it out the next day. And so he offers himself to take Prometheus's place on the rock. And the big gods are so moved by his gesture that they let Prometheus go, and they place Chiron in the heavens as the constellation of Centaurus. So,
Well, I was just thinking about the healer part of it.
yeah, I mean, yeah, he does some healing, but he himself wasn't so much a healer as he taught healing to others.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so he taught people how to heal.
Well, we
Didn't,
need a leader to do it.
yeah. Yes, we need some healing.
Who's going to
So,
heal our wounds after Trump?
well, that's just it. I mean, how long will it take to put it back together, and will we be able to put it back together? That
Right.
depends exactly on it. It all depends on what happens after Trump.
Right.
If and there's a variety of scenarios that could happen here. He lives out completes his full term and goes off into happy retirement. He tries to, the way he's going, he could orchestrate things such that he could run for a third term. Or
You
he
believe
doesn't
what
live
the
out the
White
term.
House said today? The White House said that his physical exam shows that he's in perfect health,
Yeah,
mentally
bullshit.
and physically.
Yeah,
Well,
bullshit.
yeah, but come on.
You know why it says that? Because that's
What Trump
what
said to say.
that's good. Yeah, right. Because a doctor can't say the truth. The doctor cannot reveal what his true health is. That would be a violation of HIPAA. So we have to accept what the White House says. We all know that's not true. I mean, we see him dragging his right foot at times, stumbling, difficulty climbing stairs and steps. We hear his incoherent expressions at different times. So we know he's not in perfect health. We just don't know how bad or what it is.
Right.
But that's that's what they have to say. He's never been honest and forthright or forthcoming with the
Anything.
American people about anything. So why
No.
would we expect him to do that now? But what happens if he, for some reason, can't finish out this term? Well, then Vance becomes president. Now, does that mean then that gives them a better chance to hold on to and win in 28? Because now they have a new younger president candidate? Because at this point, who is going to challenge? Yeah, there is no clear candidate or selection of candidates that would appear to have the clear shot at challenging and winning in 28.
Challenging who?
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I'll
that's
tell
it.
you one thing they're talking about is that if they pass an amendment that he can have a third term, then Obama can come back and challenge him. He can have a
Yeah,
third
people have
term
said
also.
that. Yeah.
You do realize that amendment an amendment for allowing a third term will never pass.
No.
Yeah, but the interesting is what Cornelia said, that Obama could come back, yes.
Yes,
Right.
And kick his butt.
but it could.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they've already done polls on it.
I know.
He would beat
Yeah.
him like, you know.
Well,
But I don't, okay, not
that's
that,
in today's, the problem with, what we're talking about there is that's in today's world. This is, 3 years out from the election. But I think whatever is coming, it's going to be January, February, March of 26 that it's going to really start to, I think, coalesce. And the question
Right.
becomes one of, well, will it be such a way that the mega right-wing conservatives gain further strength and control? Or will there be backlash against what's been happening sufficient to oust them from power? And how extreme will it be? That's the big unknown. Because I mean, I don't, it's, like I say, 42 years in the government, and while I don't approve of Musk's and Trump's, sledgehammer approach to the government, they're not entirely wrong in what they're trying to do to make it more
No, because
efficient
of what
and to
it does
eliminate
is
fraud.
it forces us to eventually have another convention,
It's it,
constitutional convention, and heal up all the loops there are in there that can be
well,
used.
mhm. And part of that is coming out of the Supreme Court because they're overturning longstanding Supreme Court precedents, simply because now
Yes,
we have a different Supreme Court,
right.
which is not unusual. The court swings back and forth between liberal and conservative, sometimes at different times. So, um,
Yeah,
but
but
the reality is,
this one was done intentionally.
yeah, it was created that way, but it's not playing as well as Trump thought it would when he appointed these people, because some of them are not, you know, towing the line like them. But see, there's another big thing that's a big issue that's going on right now that I think may get addressed, and maybe this is part of it, is how do the courts enforce a ruling?
Yeah,
Shoot, when they
contempt
set
of
up
court.
when they set up the American system with the executive branch and the congressional branch and the legislative branch, they forgot to give the judicial branch, rather, the judicial branch, which is the final word on law, any structural means for enforcing their rulings. Because all of the people that, the legal people that one would expect to then enforce the ruling, the Department of Justice, FBI, and U.S. Marshal Service, they're all under the executive branch, under the president. And so it's kind of like saying, well, Mr. President, we need your people to go ahead and enforce this ruling that you don't like. Now, it's never been, I don't know that it's ever it's probably been challenged at times in the past. Right now it's really kind of more front and center because of all of the things that the current administration is trying to do that are being challenged in the courts. And look at the case of the one guy from the immigrant from Venezuela who was living in Maryland who got swept up in the uh, Venezuelan gang thing and shipped off with a bunch of others to an El Salvador prison that we've contracted with through a private contractor to hold people. So we're paying El Salvador to house these people. And it's like the court has said, no, he shouldn't have gone. Stop them. Don't stop sending them there. Bring him back. And what's the administration saying? Duh, we can't do that. We don't know how. We don't know. We don't know. Their feet drag, they're not doing it. even though the court has given them orders to do it. I mean, I don't know, maybe the solution would be for the court to hold them in contempt and lock them all up. And once they run out of attorneys, they'll have to, then they'll just keep hiring more attorneys. So yeah, what's the solution? And the court has no authority, and that's no body of authority that can go out and make the executive branch do that, to make them actually obey and do that order that they issued.
Well, we have Congress, and Congress makes laws. I mean, that's the bottom line. So,
Yeah, but then Congress isn't doing their job either,
no,
because they're allowing the executive branch to do things that normally would be that are under the scope of Congress. Congress controls the purse strings, not the executive branch. Congress controls the money, and
I
yet
mean,
Congress is
ultimately, if
allowing.
Trump wants to do what he wants to do, he needs Congress to pass the law to do it,
Well,
because this is all just.
ultimately, yes, but there are a few cases where they're challenging him, but for the most part, they're just letting him do it.
That's
Those
because
executive orders that he's signing are, for the most part, worthless pieces of paper.
they're afraid of his revenge.
Yeah, well, they don't want to. Yeah, they're afraid.
They're afraid of his revenge. So maybe if something, his health or something happened and
Well,
Vance becomes president, maybe they won't be so afraid of him, and then we'll see some change.
Well, the thing is that you're getting, we're starting to see backlash from
Yeah,
people that
I've had enough.
voted for Trump,
Yeah.
saying, well, I wasn't expecting him to fire me. I wasn't the one that was supposed to get laid off. I wasn't the one that was supposed to get my benefits cut.
Exactly.
I mean, what was it? He signed I think it was an executive order, and they literally took 6,000 living people that they knew were alive, that had active Social Security numbers, and had them declared dead. Boom, thank you. You're all now dead.
Cornelia, did you say you went on a march or you did something?
What?
Did you say you went on a march or you did something in protest?
Oh,
No,
Yes, I
I
know
joined
that-
the group, but I didn't go because it was too complicated for someone my age. I'd have to take the bus down to
Oh,
the
I
train
see.
station, take the train downtown, and everybody was saying, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it."
I know a lot of docent friends from Gamble
right.
House went to protest on Colorado in Pasadena the other week.
148. Okay,
Uh-huh.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we haven't solved the problem, and I think we have an understanding of what it's going to be. I mean, what the problem is trying to figure out what is going to happen. And there's a lot of possibilities. So here's the chart for the actual point in time when Saturn and Neptune are the closest. And you see them right down here, and still in it's the fourth house of the chart.
When is this?
Um,
July 25.
That's on my birthday.
Oh,
Mhm.
no. Yes,
Happy
I know.
birthday. Yeah. But so you see that, July 16th, 25, 4:07 p.m., they're within less than a
Right.
quarter of a degree of arc of each other. But this is as close as they will get, because they're both retrograde. Saturn's moving fast. Saturn's moving faster than the 23, 20. They're both moving at the same speed, but Saturn will be picking up speed and going, faster. So that's my question. So if you haven't really thought about it, you might want to consider, as you watch transits, if you watch them at all, or you look at them for people, keep in mind whether or not that transit will actually perfect at a given point in time, or if something, if one of the transiting planet's going to go retrograde, that might delay when the point of perfection occurs. I mean, will we have a Saturn Neptune conjunction? We sure will. But will we have any, will there be major events before that might be clear indicators of it, or will they not happen until at or after that point in time? That's my question.
It's interesting to see Mars conjunct the South Node, looking at that aspect. I mean, just
Mhm.
it's not exact, obviously, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's darn close. Yeah, close enough for horseshoes, ballroom dancing, and government workers. But yes, and astrologers. It's
I
certainly
better
within the
look at
orbit.
my solar return.
Okay, so where are we now? Oh, here we go. This is something else we wanted to talk about. I don't know how many of you have picked up on this through the astrology internet waves. Um,
Right.
this minor grand trine that's coming up involving Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, where we have a trine from Pluto to Uranus, with both Pluto and Uranus sextiling Neptune. Now, I picked this time because
This is called the Aries vortex.
Aries vortex, is that what they're calling it?
Ray Merriman did.
Uh, oh, okay. That's a
He
nice
said
name
this has
for it.
never happened before.
Well, not in recent memory, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I picked this time mainly because Uranus is now in Gemini, and so that we have, we don't have an out of sign aspect going on here.
Right.
Um, and this is actually right before, this is right after Neptune goes retrograde, and it's like just before Saturn goes retrograde. So we have Uranus now at, you know, 0 Gemini 4 minutes. I could have timed it more closer, I guess, for 0 0, but this is close enough. Um, yeah, how significant is this? What do you make of this? Because Pluto and Neptune are going to sextile for a long time. They're in and out of sextile over the next 10 years. So it's not like this is something that's going to be a one and done thing. Even Saturn and Pluto and Uranus trine, is a recurring phenomenon.
Well,
Having
Merriman did a whole tape on the Aries vortex. He sees it as a signal of a whole change, a global change.
Okay, that's interesting. I have to look that up. Look for it. Yeah, Ray is phenomenal astrologer and predominantly deals in the financial world. But yeah,
Right. But Rick Levine also talked about it.
Rick talks about a lot of stuff. But, yeah, he's a well-known astrologer as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, Aries vortex. Well, let's see.
Well, they talk about it as a new beginning, as a new era that we're going into.
Um, well, yeah, but the new beginning is the Saturn Neptune conjunction coming up next year at 0 Aries.
Right.
This is all part of the precursor of it.
Right.
Um, and this aspect, it goes on Uranus only goes to 1 Gemini, so it's not like it's going
Well,
far.
then this date should be important to give us a taste of it, right?
Yeah, this
July
aspect actually,
8th.
yeah. Um, it's your first, I would say, solid aspect. There may be a taste of it before that, because even at 29 Taurus, Uranus is in orb. But at this point, Uranus is now, we now have an in sign. We have an air trine from Uranus to Pluto, and we have the sextiles from Uranus to Neptune, Saturn, and from Pluto to Neptune, Saturn. And so we have that whole dynamic this summer of Saturn and Neptune being real close.
And what would that look
Yes.
like? Saturn and Neptune being real close.
Well, that's where they're both within the first 2 degrees of Aries.
Yeah, but what would that look like? How does that manifest?
Things dissolving, primarily the dissolving of structures, the challenge, it challenges to structure, some dissolving, some changing. Um,
Well, in the American chart that I have, that would fall in the 11th house of Congress.
mm,
Hmm.
uh, well, and that seems to fit pretty well, I think, because right now Congress has been relatively ineffective for the last couple of years. I mean,
Right.
under they'll do nothing. I think this last Congress actually did pass fewer laws than any other Congress in history. It's like, well, I mean, they've had a long time to do this, and it's like, how many laws do they need to pass? Though a lot of times, some of the laws they pass are relatively obscure and very pinpoint.
Well, when they do a library for Trump, we'll have the tweet room and the executive order room.
Yeah. Yeah, I do find it kind of interesting that he seems to be conducting official business either primarily on Truth Social. And it's like, that's nice. It's certainly not an official notification. But yeah.
Well, I have to remember this.
Yeah. I'm surprised that we haven't had a confrontation at any of these offices yet where somebody was going to be replaced and they said, no, I'm not going. And they have the GSA security there with them. And the DOGE people, whoever they are, show up. And then who do you have with you to make this happen? So now you have a face off between two entities because DOGE has no legal authority to do jack shit. Sorry, nothing. They have no legal
Right.
authority to do anything. It's like, okay, thanks for telling me. Go away.
It was interesting. I thought when all the stuff started coming negative back to Musk, and then Trump says, well, Musk has to step down now because it's his time. He has to go back and run his own business. I mean, he was like, was like, now
yeah,
that Musk is not helping you the way you thought it was going to be, too.
Yeah, Musk created a lot of sensations and caused a lot of furor, and that's fine. Thank you. He did his job. It's kind of like with the tariffs. It's like, but they're here. Trump is saying, here it comes, and then of course he says, oh no, we'll wait. That's okay, we'll wait. He's playing the game.
I can't imagine two narcissists staying together for very long.
Good point,
No.
Cornelia. Good point.
What?
They won't. Whoops.
Good point.
Yes, they won't. Yeah.
It's always going to be a matter of who's in charge here.
Yeah. Yes. Who's in charge?
And who has the most fame and who's getting the most attention? Musk is getting too much attention.
But I mean, when you look at some of the videos or pictures of any of the cabinet meetings or whenever, when you've got both Trump and Musk there, typically Musk is the one doing the talking, and Trump is like, look how he's bored out of his mind, totally bored, whatever,
Right.
taking a nap, whatever, So it's
and Musk is usually standing and Trump's sitting.
Yes,
yes.
Always. Yeah, Musk is like I don't know, not even sergeant at arms, more like his lapdog court jester or something, I guess. I don't know. It's bizarre. We've never seen anything quite like it. But that is
Nor
how it
his
goes.
cabinet either.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like
any other
Alice in Wonderland's Tea Party with all those nutty people.
Well, and then Trump did his thing with his tariff switcheroo, made his friends a lot of money. So
yeah,
and bragged about it. It's like, really?
Yeah, is anybody going to investigate that?
Well, they're calling for investigations, but will they or not? That's another matter, because the legal authority for doing the investigation is all under his thumb. So it's like, probably not. They have to wait until there's a change of power.
Yeah.
If there's a change of power.
Yeah, and then is it something they're going to? Yeah, and if there is a change in power, but are they then even going to want to deal with that? Because they'll have so much else to deal with. So it is a most interesting time that we're living in, people, and I'm glad we chose it. Okay, anybody got anything else they want to say about this stuff? Because we had talked last month about other forms of divination, and I wanted. Yes, Cornelia.
I just What I just said I have to go.
Oh,
It's
okay.
two,
That's
it's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
So
Yeah.
bye-bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Au revoir. Thank you, Cornelia. Appreciate it very much. Thanks. And we'll have to be
Okay.
looking at some of this stuff with your chart, your US
I
chart.
can't wait until it comes out.
Yes. I'm waiting for it too. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Take care.
Thank you.
Cornelia.
Loved it.
See you May 4th.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, we did spend a lot of time, as most people, talking about you know who. And
Mhm.
we didn't really get to some of the topics we were going to do this, which was the astrology and tarot, you know.
Well, that's where we're going now.
Yeah, but it's already 2 o'clock.
Oh, we usually go to 2:30.
Oh, is that our new time?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. We're never done at 2 o'clock. Almost never. We usually go to like 2:30 or later. So yeah. So that's what's coming up. Okay. So we talked about it. So I was gonna figure, okay, let's start with astrology and tarot, which is something that I blend all the time. Um, and if you're familiar with tarot and you do tarot, then you should be aware that the 22 major arcana of the tarot have astrological correlation to the 12 signs and the 10 planets. Now, I attribute it to the one I use is the more frequently used one, which I think comes from the Rider Waite time. But there are some other slight variations. So the 22 major arcana, and depending upon what deck you use, they could have different names. Starts with 0, the Fool card. And from what I understand, historically, it was actually the last one added of the 22 major arcana, which is why they made it. But because they call it the Fool, they made it 0 rather than 22. But I could be off on that. So then you have number 1 is typically the magician. 2 is either the priestess, sometimes the card called the high priestess. 3 is the empress. Some may refer to it as the popus. 4 is the emperor. 5 is the hierophant or pope in older decks. 6 is the lovers. 7 the chariot. 8 is typically justice or maybe strength. There are some decks that are relatively popular that switch justice and strength in terms of what their number is. The deck I use is the Voyager Tarot, which calls it balance. 9 is the Hermit. 10 is Fortune or Wheel of Fortune. 11 then is either Strength or Justice, depending upon what deck you're using, typically. 12 is the Hanged Man. 13 is Death. 14 is Temperance. It's called Art in the Voyager deck. 15 is the Devil, or Devil's Play, as it's called in the Voyager deck. It's a little more fun sounding than the Devil. 16 is Tower. 17 is Star. 18 is Moon. 19 is Sun. 20 is typically Judgment. Voyager calls it Time Space. 21 is World, and some call it Universe, taking on a broader scale. But those are the general ones. But there are specialized decks out there, new decks that are coming out frequently that will give them other names that may go along with whatever the theme of the deck is. Though most of them still base off of the Rider-Waite concept with 22 major arcana, 16 people cards, 4 from each suit, and 4 suits, and 10 numbered cards in each suit, for a total of 78 cards. All right. So here's how the 12 signs line up. Aries is number 4, the Emperor. Taurus, number 5, the Hierophant. Gemini is number 6, the Lovers. Why? Gemini is the twins, the lovers, 2 people. Cancer is the Chariot. Why? Because Cancer moves. Leo, either 8 or 11, is Strength. Virgo is 9, the Hermit. Personally, have a little problem with that being a Virgo. I don't like the image of the old man, but there are some decks that have a more acceptable to me image for the Hermit. Libra is number 8 or not, or 11, depending upon which card is Justice. Scorpio is 13, the death card. Sagittarius is 14, temperance or art. Capricorn is number 15. Aquarius is 17, the star card. And Pisces is number 18, the moon card. Don't ask me why. It just the way they set it up. And then the planets, the sun is number 19, the sun card. It's the one card that is what it is. The moon is generally associated with number 2, the priestess. Mercury is associated with number 1, the magician. Venus with number 3, the empress. Mars is associated with the tower, number 16. Jupiter is associated with 10, the wheel of fortune or fortune. Saturn is associated with number 21. Uranus is associated with the 0 or fool card. Neptune with 12, the hanged man. And Pluto with 20, judgment. So even if you, as an astrologer, if you know the correlation, even if you don't fully understand all of the ramifications of the meaning of the major card, it gives you a sense of how the card, how to interpret that card, or how you might play with the card as a good play, as a good starting point. Now, there are, you can find a few books out there that will talk about, do a full correlation between the majors, the people cards, and the number cards, and the suits, and the whole 9 yards, and astrology. So we're not going there yet. We'll get farther into that as we get into more stuff.
But it's actually quite fun to do if you have a writer date, if you have a deck or a tarot deck, not an oracle deck that has all the correlations, is to put out your natal chart using the sun and the signs. And it's really
Yes.
interesting to see it. If you do it, it really does. You see it at a different angle. It's quite useful if you haven't done that before.
Yes. Yes. Great. Yeah. It's a great thing to do. Yeah. If you've got a tarot deck and you got your astrology chart, and you've never really done much with your tarot deck, take out the 22 majors using this correlation, lay them out around your natal chart with the cards as they fall. So you put the tower where your Mars is, you put, a fool child where Uranus is, you put the star card where Aquarius is, and so on. And so you lay it out that way. And then you can see how the pictures start to develop and how things can start to make a little more sense. So here's a chart, and I don't even remember whose chart this is. I did this so long ago. But with the major arcana correlations in here. So here's 20 judgment with Pluto. Here's 15 devil with Capricorn. Here's the star card with Aquarius, the hanged man with Neptune. Here's the moon with Pisces, fool with Uranus, emperor at Aries, and so on, all the way around the wheel. So you can kind of see how it lays out. Now, one thing that I do when I'm often doing readings, particularly if it's a new person, I'll check their life path number, which is simply the sum of the digits of their birth date. Okay, because that it's believed to reveal important information about a person's personality traits, strengths, weaknesses, and life purpose. Each life path number has its own unique characteristics and is thought to offer insights into a person's life journey and potential challenges and opportunities. This number will not change. It never changes during your lifetime unless, by odd chance, you discovered that your birthday was wrong. That you were actually born on the 2nd, not the 3rd, or something of that nature. This article is there's the website it's from. So now there's a couple of different ways to calculate your life path number. My suggestion would be to do it both ways and see what the difference is. Okay. The single digit life path number will be the same unless you make a mistake in your arithmetic. But the 2-digit number that comprises that single digit number may be different. So you start with the month, and I'm using myself. Here's an example. So I was born in September 09, 03 on the third day, 1946. Together they add up to 32. And then I add the 3 and the 2 and I get 5. The major arcana, the 5 is the or Hierophant. It's the Taurus card. It's nice. I mean, I'm a Virgo. It's yet another earth sign, so that kind of fits together. Generally, most numerological systems will consider the 11 and 22 as master numbers. Some also include like 33, may include 44. They may also, some may go to 55, 66, and so on, any double number. But in this for this exercise, then you would still reduce that double number, the 11 to 2 or the 22 to 4 or whatever, for your final answer. Now, okay, so my birth date going this way adds up to a 32 and a 5. The other, whoa, what the heck does that mean? That was wild. Okay, so in the other example, what you do is you do it in a column. You know, here's the month, the day, and the year, and then you add those digits up, and I get 1958. Well, 1958 adds up to 23. Well, it's still a 2 and a 3, and it's still a 5. So, but you can see where by doing it this way, that double-digit number that you get, the 2-digit number, can be a different combination than if you do it doing it the other way. Because when you look at a 5, it could be made up of a 0 and a 5, a 1 and a 4, or a 2 and a 3. Or it could be made up of a 3 and a 2, and a 4 and a 1, or a 5 and 0. And the way I look at that 2-digit number before reducing it to a single digit is that those are the 2 hidden cards within the final number. So within my 5, there's a 2 and a 3. There's a priestess and an empress that make up my 5, Hierophant. And so they add some additional little influence, insight. It's kind of like adding, Chiron or asteroids or some other aspect into an astrological chart. Just a little bit more.
So my
Pardon?
final number is 6. So for me, that could be a 4 or 2 or a 3 and a 3.
Or a 1 and a 5.
Or a 1 and a 5.
Or a 0 and 6. 60,
Yeah.
for example, would still add up to 6.
Right.
What was it? What is it? Which way? Oh, let's see. 9, 4. You're 24, 6. Yeah. Yeah. 10, 20, 30.
You just add one more digit for me because you're 03 and I'm 04.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah. And like I said, so this number never changes. Yeah, see, and if you did it the other way, you end up with 33, which is a double 3, a master number, which would be a master
Oh, I
master
forgot
number
they
and a 6.
told me that. Yeah, I was told that. That's a master number.
Right. But you only get it when you do it by adding the individual digits, not when you do a column. If you add it by do a columnar addition table. That's a mouthful. So that's why, but that's why I think it's fun to kind of do it both ways. But if you're going to do it one way, just do it this way. Thank you.
That's the way
yeah.
Gail does it.
Yeah.
When she's doing your numbers, that's how she does it.
But yeah, sometimes you'll see it. You may see the other way done, like in a tarot book or something. So you can.
For those who don't know, I'm talking about. I don't know how to pronounce it. Monique, Gail,
Minogue. Gail
Minogue.
Minogue.
She's comes and talks to us sometimes about numerology.
Yeah.
She has a book out too.
Yeah, she's a trends and so what she calls herself, trend specialist. Yeah, she
Hmm,
studies cycles and trends. Um,
hmm.
More so than a numer. She doesn't consider herself as a numerologist per se. All right, enough. Okay. All right. So once you have your life path number, single digit number, here's some ideas of here's kind of like the gist of what each number means. Yeah, a one, that's well, that would be like a new beginning, but it also may require greater independence and have a higher need for personal achievement because it's more it functions more of an independent need. It's an ingle. It's a onesie. A two, they may be more sensitive, comfortable with habits and routine, function well with other better, play well with others. The three may be more expressive, creative, or sociable because now you're getting into a group. The four may be more trustworthy, practical, and down to earth. Those are somewhat characteristics of an emperor or somebody who creates things. The five, more versatile, adventurous, and progressive. Well, if you look at the numbers 1 to 9, five is right in the middle.
Mm.
And so five is the sitting on the fence, the mutable, the more changeable. The six may be idealistic and have a stronger sense of responsibility. Think in terms of the lovers. I mean, you when you're just you're one way, but then if you meet someone and you fall in love and you're with that other, you bring in elements of two, but also of six because you may have some greater sense of responsibility. You're not just yourself anymore. There's this other person you have responsibilities for. Um, the seven may seem more peaceful and reserved or analytical. The eight may seem more down to earth, focused on learning and find satisfaction in the material world. Nine may seem more compassionate, generous with the humanitarian attitude, marks the end of the 0 to 9 cycle. So this is actually the nine is an end of that cycle because um, now you can use these same definitions if you're doing like your year card or your age card. Um, though with a year card, you're normally going to reduce it down to a single digit. Um, I should change that to year card, not age. In the year card, you take your month and day of birth, and then you simply add it to the current year rather than your birth year. And what's nice about that is with this system, so you've got like, for my case, it's like 9 and 3 is 12, and 2 is 14, and 2 is 16, and 5 is 21. So I'm in a 21 year, and 2 and 1 is 3. So it's an empress. Next year, guess what? It's going to be a 4, and the following year it's going to be a 5. And so um, each year you go up to 1 until you get to 9, and then you start over at 1. So it's a constant 9-year cycle for your year card. If you have an 11, for example, as your or a 22 for your life path, may have a higher spiritual awareness and have knowledge and understanding beyond that of others. The 22 is like the 11, but they may have even higher spiritual awareness or be better able to apply the knowledge. You didn't go to 33. I probably could do that. But that gives
You
you,
just said I was a 33.
yeah, you're a 33. I didn't include 33 on here because
I
it
know.
wasn't. Because 33, not all numerological systems include 33 as a master number. I think most probably do, but they don't. If they do, they typically don't go beyond 33.
Mhm.
Um, I did early. Okay, so we've resolved. We're going to meet on May 4th, and we're going to be talking about moms and their offspring. June, we can maybe talk about. Well, June, we want to talk about our president and his coming of age, his solar return chart. Um, July, these are tentatives. We could talk about retrogrades. August, tentatively, we're going to talk about prenatal and other eclipses and what they're good for. And there's a bunch of other topics. So if you got a topic you'd really like to talk about, I know that we had a suggestion about the dwarf planets because we've never really talked about the new dwarf planets. Ceres is now a dwarf planet. We haven't really talked about her much. And then we have Eris and Sedna, and there's some others whose names are escaping me right now. There's about 7 or 8 currently identified as dwarf planets. So that's another possibility. So if you got ideas, I'm always open to hear them. My gosh, we're running ahead of schedule. Is there anything anybody wants to go back and look at again, like a chart or something else they'd like to look at? Because this is a thank you all, as always, for your support,
Mm.
for showing up. Okay, for right now, I'm going to stop the sharing. Where are we at? Oh, we're down to 8. Anything else?
Jim, I was just always doing a bunch of stuff while you were talking and I multitasking. I so appreciate all your information. Thank you so much.
You're so
Really
welcome.
great. And please
Yeah.
send out that PDF because it just has it all there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all there. I will send it out. I may add a thing or two to it, but yeah. I might add that slide showing the Mars Pluto aspects and even the Saturn Neptune or something. But yeah, I think that what I think we're really experiencing is the beginning of something significant. Obviously, things we can see that things are dissolving, things are being torn down, destroyed, going away, being undone, and it remains to be seen where we go, where it ends up going. But it's obviously, America is going to be different coming out of all of this. We're not, because the old Democratic Party isn't going to do it because they totally blew it last year. So they're going to have to get their proverbials together, and who knows how that will play out in the scheme of things.
Well, let's just pay attention and be safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody. Well, I
Mhm.
thank you all for showing up. Thank you
Great
so
to
much. I
see you,
appreciate it.
Jim. Thank
Sure.
you.
Good to see you, Victoria. Don't be a stranger.
I won't.
Okay, see you next month.
Yep.
Okay. All
Thanks.
right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jim.
Erica,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
again
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming.
Rita, everybody, thank you for your contributions. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording. There we go. We're done.